Amid the bitter winds of Vienna, she was long condemned as the woman who squandered Mozart's fortune. For 200 years, Constanze Mozart has been trapped in the stereotype of being mediocre and vain. Yet the truth often lies hidden behind yellowed manuscripts, within her shrewd, steady business strategy. Tonight, by the firelight, let us enter her real life and see how one woman guarded the dignity of a genius. If Mozart's melodies were moonlight, Constanze was the solid earth that held the light and let it spread across the world. When her brilliant husband died young, leaving mountains of debt and unfinished scores, she did not sink into despair. Constanze Mozart, a woman maliciously judged by historians, became the most successful steward in the history of classical music. Close your eyes, and follow the gentle narration to feel her real destiny, reborn from utter ruin. How do you define a great woman? As gentle dependence, or clear-eyed independence? After her husband's death, Constanze Mozart spent 30 remaining years proving her loyalty and foresight toward his artistic legacy. She not only paid off all debts, but also led the publication of the first comprehensive biography of Mozart in history. Tonight, let this healing historical story reveal Constanze's restrained yet magnificent vitality. Imagine an unmarked grave in Vienna's St. Mark's Cemetery, wind whipping snow around it, no mourners, only indifferent earth. This was the funeral of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, one of the greatest musical geniuses in human history. And in that bleak city, the 29-year-old widow Constanze Mozart faced a chaotic pile of bills and 2 young children. Vienna society whispered viciously, this mediocre, extravagant, unrefined woman would destroy what was left of Mozart's reputation. Yet this woman, mocked by the world as ordinary, would stage one of history's most astonishing comebacks over the next 30 years. Tonight, by the softly flickering fire, let us enter her real life through a story you need not strain to remember. This is a tale of clarity and guardianship, of a woman maliciously slandered by history who used business sense and extraordinary resilience to build an immortal temple for her husband's art. When you close your eyes, you may hear the rustle of manuscripts, the rhythm of Constanze fighting fate in lonely nights. On that winter night in 1791, Constanze lost the most unstable light in her life. Mozart was gone, leaving behind a mess enough to break any ordinary woman, 60 messy volumes of handwritten music, and crippling high-interest debt enough to buy several grand houses. Under Austrian law of the time, one sign of weakness from Constanze, and creditors would have seized every last manuscript. But this woman, dismissed as artistically ignorant, showed astonishing calm. She did not even attend his desolate funeral, but shut herself away in her study. She began writing to the King of Prussia, to the Archbishop of Salzburg, her pen filled with unyielding determination. She realized the genius was gone, and that she alone in the world could defend the value of the name Mozart. Systematically, she sorted through dust-covered scores, late into cold nights, comparing handwriting by faint candlelight to verify every melody. Wisdom forged by hardship awakened within her. She was no longer the young girl who laughed at Mozart's pranks, she was a guardian. This shift was not sudden, but a defense grown from years of enduring scorn from the Mozart family for her humble origins. She understood that in a male-dominated art world, she had to become a shrewd merchant to protect the fragile dignity the genius left behind. Why does history remember a mean, mediocre Constanze? Because after Mozart's death, many self-proclaimed close friends could not bear a woman controlling the rights to his legacy. In their writings, they sneered at her background, called her vain, even blamed her for ruining the genius's health. But to understand Constanze was to understand rational, desperate self-preservation. To settle the debts, she organized the first large-scale memorial concerts for a composer in history. She chose the programs herself, skillfully tapping public grief over the genius's early death. This sharp business sense was considered unladylike in Vienna, but Constanze did not care. She knew only money could educate her children, and only money could save those immortal scores from being used to wrap fish or prop up table legs. She once wrote, "My Wolfgang was free when he composed, but I must be strict, even miserly, to guard him." This clear female strength clashed violently with an era that demanded women be meek and ignorant. She fought not only poverty, but also gentlemen who claimed to love art yet tried to cheat her out of her husband's work. Her life was a waltz danced on the blade of gossip. 9 years after her husband's death, Constanze met the diplomat George Nicolaus von Neeson, who became her second husband and most important ally. This was no simple dependence, but a profound partnership of art and influence. With Neeson's help, Constanze set out to publish the complete works of Mozart, an unprecedented project at the time. She revealed extraordinary archival skill, she organized scores, collected letters, and reshaped Mozart's public image. She knew that to make Mozart eternal, she must frame him as a suffering genius, a narrative strategy a century ahead of her time. She moved with her children to Salzburg, Mozart's hometown, building a sense of pilgrimage around his legacy. She personally proofread every reprint, negotiating tough royalty terms that made publishers respect and resent her. Through these efforts, she erased all debt and secured a lifelong royal pension for herself and her children from the Austrian emperor. The young widow once scraping coins from the floor became, in her 50s, one of the most respected and wealthy women in Vienna's musical circles. She no longer had to defend herself against accusations of mediocrity, for the very air of Vienna hummed with the notes she had lifted to immortality. Constanze lived to 80, outliving Mozart by half a century, and never ceased honoring and nurturing his memory. In her later years, she often sat by windows in Salzburg, listening to the marriage of Figaro drift from the streets. She told her sons, "Your father was an eternal child. I was the nurse who kept the world from forgetting him." By then, she needed no historians to validate her. She watched Mozart statues rise in public squares, her heart filled with vast peace. She gently sorted not only Mozart's legacy, but her own life, and spearheaded the classic biography that secured his place in history. In that book, she quietly set aside her own sorrows, returning all glory to the man she loved. Her power lay not in overshadowing him, but in selfless clarity that fulfilled her own being. When she passed away peacefully in the spring of 1842, she was no longer just Mozart's widow, she was a complete, great, deeply substantial human being. Her death closed the first great age of classical stardom, and marked the triumph of female wisdom. The voices that once maligned her vanished into dust, while the music she guarded still shines brightly beneath the stars. To answer the question from the beginning, was Constanze really mediocre? If mediocrity means rising from crushing debt, turning scattered manuscripts into humanity's shared treasure, then such mediocrity is greatness itself. She showed the world that guarding a genius often takes more courage and wisdom than being one. Constanze Mozart, a woman misunderstood by history, reclaims her clear, resilient spirit in this story. Tonight the fire has dimmed, and the night outside is deep. Carried by this gentle story, soothed by Constanze's restrained, warm strength, sink into peaceful sleep. You do not need to be perfect, nor understood by all. With quiet resolve in your heart, you can cross any age's prejudice. Now Constanze may be dancing once more with her Wolfgang amid eternal melody. Good night, in this quiet, still evening.